So, I bought this keyboard from Facebook Marketplace. This is the Keychron Q1, a 75% custom keyboard. And to summarize the video, I think it's a great board. But you might be wondering, why did I buy this keyboard from Facebook Marketplace? Well, to be completely honest, it was because of impulse. I was scrolling through Keychron's website and I've been eyeing the Q2. The only issue I had was the shipping time and the shipping price. I got pretty desperate, so I decided to go find it locally. And unfortunately, my country only supplied the Q1, and worst of all, it didn't even come with a knob. So the search got pretty deep, and it got to the degree where I searched on Facebook Marketplace and saw this. Hi, my name is Guion, your host for today's Nooses Club video, and today I'll be reviewing the Keychron Q1 Facebook Marketplace edition, and after that I will be modding it myself to see whether or not my build was better than a seller's build. In terms of the experience with the Facebook Marketplace, I will say that the seller was awesome to work with in the market. He communicated pretty well and he shipped out the keyboard as quickly as possible. Now let's get into the details. So I talked to the seller about where he bought the parts and what things he did to the board so I can get a rough idea on how I got to the $300 price tag I paid for. Anyways, so he bought the bare bones knob edition kit with the FR4 plate from the website, and then of course he had to pay for the $32 USD shipping. In terms of the switches and the keycaps, he did have to buy them from AliExpress. They are the GMK Olivia clones and the Keychron Oil Kings, which were factory lubed. Unfortunately, with the keycaps being clones, I wasn't really fond of it, but as I said, I got pretty desperate, so kind of understood his viewpoint as well. He did have to find a alternative considering how Olivias are pretty hard to buy. Anyways, in terms of the mods that he applied, he put on the PE foam switch pads. He also did a 2-layer of Tempest tape mod, and then he also did a brake force mod for the screws, and then lubed the stabilizers with Krytox 205 grade 0. Anyways, to continue on with the experience from Facebook Marketplace, he did ship it out pretty quick, as I mentioned. It only took about a week to get sorted. As I unboxed it, you're basically greeted with the Keychron Q1 bag. It comes with the spare keycaps that come from the Clone Olivia set. Then straight after, you're welcome to the Q1 itself, already pre-built of course. And then on the side, you get the standard braided Type-C connector and spare screws for the board itself. And then at the very bottom of the case, you do get a keycap puller, a switch puller, and boy, this box was heavy. The first time I've ever really owned a fully aluminum case, so it was definitely a big step up to my last keyboard, which was the Gas 67 from CIY. And of course, if you want to see that video, the link is in that info box right above. Anyway, as soon as I took it out the box, I took a closer look and I was kind of disappointed. The keycaps had built up a bit of dust since he built the keyboard, but I wasn't too fussed about it considering he might have probably used it for a few months. Anyways, I'll leave you with a sound test and then I'll tell you what I think about it soon after. Damn, that is a very creamy keyboard. I mean, the mods that he did do to it really affected the sound profile. It's got like really subtle thugs with a poppy and creamy finish. Unfortunately though, with the switches being factory lubed, it is kind of a downside for me, and I can actually feel those inconsistencies on some of the switches. As for the stabilizers though, they were very well tuned. On the keycaps, of course, as I mentioned, the way it looks is also the way it feels. It's a very nice experience. There's also a decent amount of surface friction on the actual keycaps, so it was very easy to type on, whereas I found it pretty difficult with like my SA profile on my peanut butter and jelly keyboard, which has a more smooth surface finish on the SA profile keycaps. Anyways, now that you did hear the sound test, I do want to show you guys what I've done to the board. So I grabbed the Allen key that was used to take out the bottom screws on the plate or the case, and immediately you are greeted with the force break mod. From there you're also greeted with the tape mod, which the seller actually advertised as 2 layers, but unfortunately I was actually only greeted with 1 layer. Of course, that wasn't too big of a deal for me, so I just added 2 more layers of the Tempest tape mod. From there I also added a layer, or 6 layers to be exact, of aluminum foil, which is also packed with fiberglass insulation inside the foil to create a more premium but also less hollow sound profile in the keyboard case itself. But of course, with the aluminum foil mod, I do have to separate it from the PCB just so you don't ground it. So I use thin layers of PE foam as clearance, and I also added some proft paper in between those to separate the foil from the PCB. And hopefully, after closing the case and putting the switches back on, and finally the keycaps, we get a creamy but clacky and poppy sound profile. Anyways, here's a sound test. Whew, damn, that did sound pretty amazing. With those extra layers of the tape and of course the PE foam, it did make the keyboard a lot louder. But of course, with that you also do get the extra poppiness, and most importantly, it did create some thunk due to that PE sheet that I added in between the PCB and the plate. And for the CS silver switches, which isn't supposed to be that deep, the mods combined with the FR4 plate really manipulated its sound profile, which I was kind of sad to experience, but you can't really do much about that considering it was a pre-built keyboard which already came with an FR4 plate. And to make this a lesson to you guys, you can't really rely on a switch's sound to determine what you want, because there are so many underlying factors that come into play. But to keep this short, you really have to play around with different materials and methods just to get your dream sound. But what I did learn from this experience is that I now personally believe that in order to fulfill the keyboard hobby, it is important to understand that you need balance between feel of a keyboard and the sound. And my experience with this keyboard was great. Although it was secondhand, I really felt the custom keyboard experience right away, and with the tools provided, I had a lot of fun modding it. Aside from the fact that I did have to improvise the layers of the foam and the aluminum foil, because there was just too much of it in the keyboard. Regardless, I am not only happy with the sound, but I'm so glad I swapped the switches. The Old Kings were a little too heavy for me anyway, so the CL Silvers were perfect, not only for gaming, but just a maintaining of the satisfying smoothness for typing. Once again, this is the Keychron Q1, and it's just been awesome. Definitely would recommend this if you want that premium experience for a very great price. The value really is there, and you just have to keep an open mind, and you'll definitely find out what you can do with the board. Anyways, enough babbling. It's been great. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys are wanting to subscribe, the subscribe button is there. It would be really great and supportive if you guys did. Please like the video as well. It would mean a lot to me. And of course, there are more videos to come, so be patient. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.